What's up, boys? This is going to be the tier list for the new semi wipe solo self-found section of the game. I think most of the tier list will be the same for when the market opens, but we're going to go based off the solo self-found for right now. This is just for me playing. It won't be graded by solos, duos, and trios because that video would be too long. And I think for the most part, most of the things that are good in one mode are good in the other at this time. So it doesn't really matter what mode you're playing per se. Obviously, some things are better in solo, like Druid, but for the most part, everything should be pretty much 1-to-1. So, starting off with the still, I believe, best class in the game, I still think Wizard is probably S tier, best class in the game, even with the spell casting nerf for the cast speeds. I think Wizard's still probably the best class in the game. It does amazing range damage. It's pretty tanky in terms of like the abilities you have with Ice Shield and Reactive Shield. I think you have to play Instacast now, and you probably want to play Spell Overlord, but I think Wizard is probably the best class in the game. It just does the most damage. It doesn't require too many extra crazy rolls other than like Knowledge and HP to like play to its best ability, so I think it's the best class in the game for sure. Wizard in solos is a little bit weaker, but like in any team mode, it's definitely like the best ranged class to have on your team, whether you're playing duos or trios. Following that, I think second to that is Warlock. I know Warlock functions in all modes really well. You can play any build in Warlock pretty much except for like Demon form, like Bach, Falchion, just like straight up Bach Phantomize is like super strong if you're just going to play frontline, and Spells is also extremely good too. Because the Ranger class is kind of it's still really good. It's just a little bit harder. Everyone got like the 15 HP, so you survive a little bit longer. I think Warlock has become probably the second best caster, if not the second best class in the game. So I think it goes right under Wizard in terms of like its power. It can tank a lot. It can heal a lot. The magic healing is a little bit nerfed from the top magic healing that we've had in the past, which is this patch is basically a clone of Season 5. But you can spread your... It kind of sucks in a way, the way they changed magic healing, because you can't roll 2 on gear, but you can roll basically almost the same, but you can only roll 1 on gear, which does take away from your overall stats. But Warlock still gets the most all stats in the game, and I still think it's like really good for Warlocks in general. Plus, now that you can roll, like, not that you would ever take it, but you could roll extra stats on your book that are good for making you tank. So I imagine there's a world where you could probably play like some hybrid plate lock build and get like a million PDR on your Warlock and still be relatively fast and able to play your spells while playing some sort of like tanky Warlock when you're playing like a team mode. So also Warlock still has the best ability in the game, which is Hydra. Well, one of the best abilities in the game, which is Hydra. Anything that can trap teammates or enemies, block doors, is like a tier 1 ability forever. So until Hydra becomes like significantly worse at blocking doors, Warlock will always be good in any team mode because if you can trap somebody, they're basically dead. Following that, I actually think those are the only two S tier heroes. I think following that in A tier, I think it's actually Fighter. I think Fighter is probably the second best in solo self-found because you can use basically anything you want in the game. You can use any weapon, any armor. You get an insane PDR. The 15 HP for everyone basically gave Fighter more like 40 effective HP on average for how much PDR you have. Adding slightly more true back to the game, which wasn't a crazy jump. I think it only jumped like 2 true total back from the previous patches. Makes Arming Sword much more viable. And the Falchion with the headshot damage multiplier is still hitting really good. And any time that you can get, since they nerfed the action speed curve for a lot of things and how much points you have to invest to get better action speed, anytime that you have a perk that gives you flat action speed, like the Sword Mastery perk, is really good. Same with counterattack, because flat action speed that comes out of nowhere is infinitely better than having to roll it. So Fighters has become like really, really strong in that regard. I think after that, it's probably Barbarian, to be honest with you. I think Barb is just slightly worse than Fighter because you have to basically choose now. We're back to the point in Barbarian where you have to kind of choose what you want to fight. I don't think Achilles is very good versus fighters anymore. They end up having too much PDR for you to just man fight unless you sweet spot multiple headshots in the middle of a fight, which is unrealistic when someone is barrel stuffing you and just swinging their true damage weapon on you. But I don't think Barb is bad by any means. It's just a little bit annoying to play in Self-Found because it's hard to acquire and keep Bardicious if you die. But I still think it's like a super good class to play in Self-Found. And then I think... yeah, Moral Boost got nerfed and the Vig got nerfed on Barb, but and those matter quite a bit. But it doesn't matter in the interim fight, per se, like right when you take a fight, but it matters in the subsequent third parties that come after you because it's very hard unless you have Surge Kits to heal a lot of your HP on Barb really quickly, and Potion Chugger is not really viable in Duos and Trades. You're basically forced to take Moral Boost anyway. Doesn't mean it's a bad class or anything like that. It's just a little bit more wonky than it used to be in terms of how you have to play some of the fights when you're getting third party multiple times. I think Rogue is probably still an A tier hero. It just does a lot of damage, and if you're playing double jump with the limb hit modifiers and the extra 15 HP, you're really not taking too much damage. It still does a shit ton of damage because the true damage got, again, increased. Rapier got a buff, so you can play Rapier double jump if you would like, although I still think most rogues would probably prefer using a dagger, but it still works really well. You can watch Repose play it. It seems really strong. Play it versus people in Arena, even though it's Blue Arena, it still feels very strong. In the dungeon, feels like rogues are fairly strong. But the build has changed for the most part. I don't think you can play super landmine. You still have to play kind of kitey. And I don't know that you even really want Invis that much anymore. I think you kind of play like the frontline style, 2 skills, wait for your opening, double jump, move really quickly in and out of fights style of play. But I think it's really good, especially in Self-Found, because you can still use a lot of items on Rogue in Self-Found, and finding weapons for Rogue in Self-Found isn't terribly hard either. A lot of the weapons drop from chests and mobs, so it's not that big of a deal. I think after that, it goes Ranger's an A tier hero. I think Ranger's still really strong. It has a little bit of a hard time finding all the necessary weapons it needs, but it's still always going to be like the best physical damage range class. I would have put it in like S tier or above Fighter Barb, but the only problem I think Ranger has right now, if it even slightly fell off, is just one. In Self-Found, you don't really have access to like perfect rolled longbows all the time, like you could before. You just buy like really good longbows. So if you don't have a longbow, you kind of struggle a little bit. I don't think recurve is that good unless you're using like artifact gear recurves, or you're just really good at like permakiting, and it's kind of hard to do that versus some of the other caster classes that can get up on you really quickly now, it feels like, and you don't necessarily kill them unless you land multiple headshots, which isn't something that the average player is going to be doing, which is why like anything that can use true damage is typically really good right now. Not that you can't use true damage on Ranger, it's just less effective than like someone flying around the map and then getting on you really quickly. Shotgun is still good. Longbow is still good. Recurve's okay. The serve bow is okay for kiting, but it's not like anything crazy. And yeah, I think it's still like a really good class. I would maybe put it above Rogue, but I think Rogue has just slightly more utility. And normally I would put it above all the melee classes because ranged is superior to melee, but I just think in Self-Found, the gear for melee classes is slightly better in Self-Found than it is in non-Self-Found. For Ranger specifically, because you require a lot of damage and like you can still dodge and stuff like that, like with backstep and all that, but I just feel like it's like slightly worse than when it was in Self-Found. I still think it's like a super strong class, and all the A tier classes are pretty much on par with each other. I think Fighter probably has the best bet in Self-Found because you can use so many things, and the Fighter and Cleric plate base gear is so disgustingly good. It's like ridiculous. The Toph Helm is like borderline the best thing in the best like item in the game in terms of like armor. It just gives you so much armor rating, so much headshot reduction, and it gives you good stats since they buffed the stats on it, so it's like super good. Right after that, B tier, Bard. Bard is really good. I just think it doesn't have as much action speed as you would like, and because they kind of made the curves bad, you kind of always had to be buffing to like have your desired action speed. I still think it's like super strong and good. Buckler's still really good and all that, but I just feel like it struggles a little bit in solo, but in teams it's still super good. I just don't know that you'd ever want to play like a Bard in duos. Doesn't feel as good or as impactful as it used to. Shriek is still extremely good in Self-Found. A lot of people don't have enough armor, or they don't have gemmed gear that has armor rating on it, so like anytime you get shrieked, you're basically fucked. I forget what the silence thing is, the dissonance or whatever the fuck it is, but that's like turbo good versus casters. It's just, it feels like you're just not getting quite enough, but I still think it's like really good. I would have probably put it A tier, but I think it just requires a little bit more on rolled stuff for it to be like turbo good. Whereas like a fighter or a barb or a rogue, sometimes you can get away with having like only 2 rolls on your gear. Same with like ranger, wizard, warlock. You can get away with having a little bit less ideal rolls. Then following that, it's probably smite DP cleric. I don't think caster cleric or healer cleric is that good. You can kind of play smite spells and it's still pretty good, but I don't think full caster cleric is good, so that's why I put it so low. Otherwise, it would probably be top of A tier because I think smite DP cleric is the best melee character in the game, but I'm considering the class as a whole, and as a whole, the class is a little bit bad because the healing is a little bit worse, and in Self-Found with the cast speed, the healing is slightly worse. But Smite DP kind of picks it up, so I think I'm putting it in B tier. Otherwise, if you're just playing Smite DP frontline, I think it's actually A tier, borderline S tier. I think it's the best melee class in the game to play. It counters all the other melee classes except for Rogue, who's using Cutthroat, and it doesn't die. It has good armor, and you can play pretty fast with it because you only need to hit like realistically 30 PDR to be basically immortal during your divine protection skill duration. So it's like you can play pretty fucking fast with it and get on somebody, and no one can get away from you if you have a morning star and smite. You can't get away. Faithfulness slow plus smite slow plus morning star slow is basically a better Achilles, and it can proc twice in the duration. So it's like turbo good. After that, I think it's Druid. Druid is good in solos, but it's less good in teams. It still has the ability to block people with Tree, which is like the best skill in the game. Again, tier 1 skills are things that can block people. You can just completely win a fight just off of playing for a tree, but you can't play it as aggressive as you can before. The healing is good, but it's not as good as it was before, I don't think. And I think with the cast speed being nerfed, it's harder to land Moonfires and Dreamfires, sorry. And Dreamfires were the primary way that you gave your team burst heal, and it's a little bit harder. It's still really good. I think if you're talking solos, it's probably top of B tier, but the bear got nerfed a lot, even though it was really good last patch because the limb modifier never went back to 100% during the no rolls patch, which made Druid basically worthless. It's still good. You just don't do as much damage in bear, and it's harder to play the bear. So anyone that was playing primarily bear to do damage struggles. Panther got a buff, but I don't think Panther is ever really that good per se because Panther is always a hit someone in the back chase option and never a man fight option like it used to be. So it just doesn't feel that good. I don't struggle with Druids hardly ever anymore. Last patch, I was quite a bit because the bear was so good. Even with the bear nerfs, that came the patch before that. Everyone thought that Druid was going to be basically useless after that, but it's still really strong, especially in arena and stuff like that. But in the main game, it's not as good. Even with the tree trap, it's still not as good. It kind of feels like you have a teammate that's sole goal is to play for a tree trap. So if you like to play that style and wait, okay, it's good, but if not, then it's not very good. And then bottom tier, C tier is probably Sorcerer. It got like a lot of nerfs, but really the main nerf that's bad for it is the spell casting speed got nerfed, and you can't play the primary super OP build anymore, which was no merge, and you were just casting a bunch of spells out of your hands really quickly. I think that build got nerfed quite a bit with the book. And since it got nerfed, it's just less effective. Even other people like Morty kind of stopped playing it as primary class right now. The problem with that class and like Druid and Warlock is you tweak like one number and the class becomes insanely unfun to play against and broken. So it's really hard to balance that class. I don't know what they should do to change that, but I was kind of hoping on the release of that class that it was more like the official Dungeons and Dragons Sorcerer with like wild magic, but it's not that. It's more like a hero shooter kind of class, and it's still extremely good because it has, again, a tier 1 spell in block. It has multiple CCs and all that. It just feels a little bit weaker because you don't have the instant delete some melee character ability unless it's like a fighter with no MR. And the other classes that are good right now, which is like Rogue and Bard, completely destroy the class if the Bard is playing Disso. I think it loses out to Wizard, and I think it loses out to Warlock now, Whereas before, playing against the wizard, you could easily deal with it. Not so much a warlock, but it's just like, I don't think it's good enough for it to be on the same level as the other classes. So I think it's like the last of the last in Z tier. And yeah, so it's the tier list. I mean, for solos and stuff like that, the list would change a little bit. Duos and trios are pretty similar, and solos and duos are a little bit similar. But I think the best combos, anything plus warlock, any melee character plus warlock, and any melee character plus wizard, unless you're playing like a high variation of rogue, and then you probably don't want rogue wizard or rogue warlock per se, especially if you're playing duos. In trios, rogue is still viable as hide and it works with them, but not quite as good. So you either have to play double frontline in trios with the rogue. I think double frontline in general is probably the best in trios now, because I think healing has been like kind of curbed to the ground. So really good for double frontline players right now. So lock in. See you in the dungeon. Peace.